Good morning. We will continue on the meaning of loving one's fellow man where we left off yesterday. Where we spoke about the deep interpretation of the verse, which many people know from the famous episode of Hillel and Shammai. And Hillel announced to the person who said he wants to become a proselyte on condition he is giving an interpretation of the whole of the Torah, as he knows is I suppose he knew from the interpretations and translations of the Greeks and the Romans, which attracted him, but you want to know what is the major one principle, because he knows the Torah is quite long, contains many mitzvot. What includes them all? So Shammai, he explained to him, he was a surveyor. Shammai means a surveyor, a building surveyor, and he rejected him because he compared the Torah to a building, and very deep foundations are needed for a high and wide building, which is really the master plan, you might say, of how to conduct one's life and make it into a building. Because that's the essence of Bayit, the essence of Ben Ubat, of the children, to build up their own world and help to build the world of mankind. But with Shammai's approach, he says, such a building needs many foundations. So he explained to him, Torah is the basis. You know, there are three principles on which the whole of the moral life of man depends, which was declared, it goes together with the famous chapter on Torah ethics, the ethics of the fathers, which begins with statement, the Greek philosophers, Hellenism, the greater minds of Hellenists, they always discuss the question, what are the major elements which is the basic energy of the universe? Someone who starts reading the deep moral lessons of many of the Greek philosophers, not only philosophical foundations, also moral foundations. So Shimon HaTzadik, he was one of the last of the members of the Great Assembly. It started with prophecy, went on with the oral teachings, how they would affect the Jewish people and mankind, he says. Torah Vodah Gemilut Chasadim. So Shammai said Torah is the essential. And therefore it needs many foundations. I can't. You want to become a proselyte, just know what's the major principle. Major principle is as many principles as there are mentioned in the Chumash, Torah. You can't accept it. You have to become a ger, you have to be willing to accept it, even those matters that you haven't learnt about in great detail yet. Because one needs proper Kabbalah HaMitzvot. Even if you don't know them all, you say, well, I'm committing myself to this lifestyle. But the Hillel had a different approach. Because he said that you have to base everything on the love of one's fellow man. And we explained that yesterday in different ways. That leads into everything else. So the Vilna Gaon, he carries on where we left off yesterday, and says as follows. It says, the whole world, this comes from the members of what's called the Knesset HaGadolah. There are some people, wits, will say, why do they call it the Knesset HaGadolah, the Great Assembly of 120 great scholars? In order to differentiate from the Knesset HaKetana, which also has 120 members, the Parliament of Israel. Otherwise, the Parliament of Israel would adopt this idea of Torah v'adavar gemilut chasadim. I'll tell you something interesting, which I once praised my son, in part. When my son made a bar mitzvah in, I think it was fought, one of the major army bases, an army chaplain, and he invited all the chaplains to the bar mitzvah. And he said that the head chaplain of this whole army base asked if he could discuss something with me, after the service. So it was very interesting. All the chaplains were there, Muslims and Christians, all sorts of chaplains. And he said he's the head chaplain. He's going to retirement. He said, going to retirement, if a person needs to be active in helping, because all the chaplains, they have to be psychologists, and they have to be to some extent even like parents to many of the students, many of the recent younger members of the army on the army base. They go to risky situations. Some have to learn to become parachutists. My son was very popular. He's also quite quite advanced in being a parachutist and helping people to get into that rather adventurous but difficult and risky situation. Anyway, so he said this also. He said, your son has taught us that the world is based upon these three principles. He explained it as it applies to non-Jews also. Torah v'adavar gemilut chasadim. Torah meaning that's the religion. That's the aspect of religion and morality which you put into practice, practical aspect. And what is avodah? That's prayer. Gemilut chasadim is spending your life and doing kindness. He says now he's going to retirement and he understands these three matters, but he feels a bit, what's he going to do with his life? So then I gave a little talk about it. But it's often also for non-Jews. They can continue with their lifestyle of kindness, leading people to prayer, leading people to practical aspects of the religion, which also different moral teachings, and also to spend one's life also helping other people. Anyway, let's see what the Gaon says. Gaon HaVilna says on these three same principles. It says, after we've gone into exile from our land, and we're going far away from the whole aspect of the Beit HaMikdash, what do we have left? Fulfillment of mitzvah is only possible in a more complete manner in the land of Israel. And prayer, divine service, also reaches its completion in the prayer services combined with the forms of worship of the temple. So those are both incomplete. So what's left for us today is gemilut chasadim, doing kindness. So he said that's why we say frequently It's the end of the Amidah also. End of each Amidah, we say the following words. It says, Shibane Beit Hamikdash, Shibane Beit Hamikdash, V'mheira v'yomeinu, v'seicha ken v'soirosa Yechol. Famous, put in the song also. We all hope, when you finish the tefillah, the Beit HaMikdash will be built, and you give us our portion in the Torah. In other words, Avodah without the Beit HaMikdash is not complete, incomplete. In fact, there's a fantastic interpretation, developed beautifully also in English, in the city of Rav Hirsch developed it, on the basis of many earlier sources, where he shows that the Amidah, which we say, corresponds, which Amos Gemori says, is connected Tamid, connected the constant offering. So it shows how the daily offering, morning and afternoon, in the temple, is reflected in each one of the blessings which we include in the Tefillah B'tzibur, in the prayer we all say together generally, if we can. And we say it's the regular daily prayer, morning and afternoon, corresponding to the regular offering. But only with the offering was on a complete level. That's why we hope when we finish it, we say, Yibone Beit HaMikdash. And together with that, when there's no Beit HaMikdash, and we're exiled in part from our land, not able to fulfill really our full mitzvot, even if we live in the land of Israel, many of the mitzvot are incomplete because we don't have a Beit HaMikdash. So, because there are many other mitzvot. Some say, but there's no Beit HaMikdash. The laws of Shemitah are only rabbinical, and many of the other laws are only rabbinical in different ways. They're no longer the full detail and also significance when we were in a land, let's say in time of Shlomo HaMelech, when he built the Beit HaMikdash, where Torah observance was in its highest level. And that's why we put the two together. We say, okay, we don't have anymore completely neither Torah nor Avodah. But what do we have completely? Chesed. Milut Chasadim can be done in a full manner everywhere in the world, and every situation of Jews. If you've got the Beit HaMikdash, of course, still helps us to expand it in certain ways, but we can expand it without the Beit HaMikdash in a full force. You can also, so therefore we say that prayer at the end. Our portion, the Torah, will only become full when there's Beit HaMikdash, but our portion, the Chesed, is universal at any time. So the same way that God explains this here, which is also in the beginning of the Amidah, because he say, Avraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, Avraham is the pillar of Chesed, Yitzchak is the pillar of divine service, and Yaakov is the pillar of learning Torah. So then, but when we end the bracha, we don't say the first bracha of the Amidah, Magen Avot, that Hashem protects the Avot. The Avot means the three. Magen Avraham. Why Magen Avraham? Because Avraham remains always. Avraham is Chesed. That means the whole of Judaism, you might say, started with Avraham Avinu, Chesed. All starts with loving kindness. Because otherwise you can ask the question, Noach was a great tzaddik. Why did we include him? Because the Torah of Chesed. And Chesed is given to us in the Chumash, even in long episodes, in order to teach us the foundation of the Jewish people, to bring back the world to its true purpose, which is Chesed, is Avraham Avinu. And we should turn to the example from him, and we say in his merit, that applies even when there's nothing else, that will remain amongst the Jewish people until the very end. The very end, when they have a new type of lifestyle in the time of the Mashiach. So we must say in truth that the quality that exists amongst the Jewish people if you want to understand how we've survived, because of the power of Chesed. And today, there are many Jews, unfortunately, who don't go to shul, and who don't know even what shul is. There are many, they don't know the Torah, some even don't know what's written in Chumash, they don't know the Hebrew, they don't read the Bible, they know next to nothing. But Jews on the whole have got the nature of Chesed. In every country you'll find that Jews, they have a far higher ratio of Chesed inside themselves, whichever way they use it. They use it to help others. Doesn't mean to say it doesn't exist by the other nations. Other nations also have it. But the Jewish people, they have inside themselves the concept of I'm a Jew, and as a Jew I've got to always try to help those who are in misery, those who are starving. They would even say, even those Jews today, who many of us regard as enemies, even if Jews, certainly the state of Israel, they are the BDS, and they're extreme leftists, and they think that they're against Israel. But on the basis of it, on the whole, their motivation is, according to what they understand, what they believe, unfortunately, they believe many of the lies that are spread by some of our enemies, and therefore they say, well, we Jews have always got to look at the underdog. Therefore you'll find Jews who strongly support some of the terrorists in different ways. Terrorist organizations even supported by many Jews, where they say, we've got to stop the Jews being occupiers, and why don't you have more compassion on so many of the Muslim citizens who are near starvation. The Jewish state gives a lot to them. We should give much more. Sometimes they give more support to the terrorists than to the state of Israel. And this is the root of it comes even from this power of Chesed, because they don't know anything. They don't know anything further. But the power of Chesed, we can also say in the state of Israel, there's enormous Chesed done by Chesed organizations, all different types, and we know that. For a time, and now they've stopped it, but for a time, they're quite ready to take so many refugees from the Syrian threat of being killed by the gas and other things. They come, and they're already a bit sick, so the Israeli hospitals have taken them in. But now they say, because it's becoming too much, bringing in also people who ultimately, and they're supported and they're connected with giving away information that will endanger the northern citizens of Israel. So therefore they say we can't do it anymore. But we go to the limit that is possible to go and help. It's done. Also, whenever there's any danger anywhere in the world and you need a team of doctors to go and help, I mean, one of the first groups that will always have groups of doctors and medical teams that will go out to any place in the world where there are problems. Sometimes when there was a tsunami, I know there were many ready to go and help. So many, most of them innocent people who've been killed day by day from the tsunami. So there were some of the countries that said we don't want to take from Israel, but still. They offered those who were willing to take Israel, the Israeli teams, some of the first on the spot to go and help. This is the power of Chesed. Whether in the teams, whether they're religious or not religious, makes no difference. Many of them are not religious, but the power of Chesed is deep in the psyche of the people of Israel. That's the power of Chesed. Why? So that God continues on this. It says, we don't have Torah and Avodah in a complete manner. Amar Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, Nishtayeh lanu davar echad. What is left for us? Gemilut chasadim. Because the pasuk in Tehillim, chapter 89 says, Olam chesed yibaneh. The world is built up through loving kindness. Loving kindness of Hashem, in which the people, the human beings have to be partners. Umalchi Israel, and the kings of Israel, even many of them very wicked, with regard to idolatry, different ways. First kingdom, many of them, they worshipped the Baal and other gods, the nations around, but they're Malchi Chesed. Ki Malchi Israel, it says in the Pasuk, first book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 31, Malchi Israel, Malchi Chesed Hema. Everyone knew at that time, kings of Israel are kings of loving kindness. The sages say, even by Izebah. Izebah was the most cruel queen one could imagine. And she had the prophets of God killed. But she has the chut also. It says she was a dancer, mainly to do with non-Jewish and idolatrous celebrations. But whenever there was a bride that no one was there to dance for her, she danced for her. And that's I think, one teaching. Now, I'm going to just briefly, sorry I can't stay longer today, but I want to mention something else. If you look at the verse in chapter 19, verse 18, the middle verse of the Chumash, and it's really the center principle of the whole Torah, is love your fellow man like yourself, and Hashem. And then it continues, then it says you've got to observe my statutes, which includes not intermingling the species of animals, not intermingling seeds, and making sure that your garment has a separation between wool and linen. So it's very surprising. Why is this in the same paragraph? What's one to do with the other? So I'll just hint on something, but I think it's very deep, also developed by the Gaon of Vilna. Most of the ancient traditions of the Jewish people are what's written in the first chapter of the Chumash, that God created all the different species, leminehem, to keep to their kind. When we know most of the intermingled hybrid attempts to mix up different animal seeds and also vegetable seeds, they create a halt to some of the reproductivity. And if one goes more deeply, it's even, I've been in touch with some people regarded him as the head ecologist of our time. Professor Wutterman is no longer living. He was the head of the International Society for Ecologists, and he wrote an article in the article of Botany from the Weizmann Institute that Moses had somehow knowledge of ecology which has only been understood in recent times after it's a very intensive research in the last 150 years on ecological situations, and many of the results of the researchers, we found that they were known to Moses. Moses had enormous knowledge, including also some of these laws. When that appeared, somebody showed me this article, so I tried to find out more about him, this Professor Wutterman, and he in fact, I first spoke to him at the hotel, and then he came round to the yeshiva, got very friendly with him, and I asked him this question: do you really believe that Moses could have known all this? How could you know? How can you know in fact, you're claiming that Moses knew so many species. In the Gemara asks this question. Was Moses a zoologist, or botanist, or was he a zoologist? Did he have a collection of beasts? He describes so many different animals and so many different aspects of seeds, where to get it in all different agricultural situations. So from that, the Gemara deduces that Moses did not compose this. It was composed by God. Otherwise, Moses couldn't have such knowledge. His knowledge did not extend from ordinary sources to different ends of the world, where these animals and birds and other things were known, and their lifestyle was known, and their powers of production was known. So he said to me, the truth is, I believe that it was given by God, not by Moses. God revealed it to Moses, as it says in the Chumash. And he believes the Chumash is the word of God. So I said, well, why do you say that's Moses' wisdom? He says, because I would say it's because God revealed it to him. I would lose my professorship. I wouldn't have a livelihood. Nobody would publish my articles. Not academic. In the academic world, you don't accept religious interpretations. But he did believe it came from God. So then he began to, and I introduced him to the Mishnayos that deals. The Mishnah deals a lot with all these questions of ecology. And he wrote after as many articles, and I was behind him. So there are different things to be discovered in recent times. I want to speak about one aspect, which is the moral behind it. It's true there are one aspect which applies in our daily life, and that's sharpness. We must not intermingle wool and linen. The exceptions are tzitzis. If you've got the right dye to dye the tzitzis sky blue, then it's a mitzvah to wear sky blue tzitzis. Some people do today. The second exception is the Kohanim. The Kohanim of the service in the temple. Their garments contain a mixture of wool and linen. It's all mentioned in the Chumash into them. So this is surprising. Either you say the mixture is harmful, or you say it's good to mix them. So what's it represent? So if you go more deeply, there's a deep teaching here. But garments are called midot. Midot means things made to measure. Midot, therefore garments are made to measure. But what a midah also means a moral quality. So according to the deep interpretation, the human being, he is given garments to his soul. The soul is pure spirit. What is the pure spirit? The pure spirit of each person, which is the divine image in man, is clothed in garments. What are the garments? The specific qualities that is given to each person. And we say there's two opposing types of garments. There are garments that keep you warm, and sometimes even hot, and other garments that keep you cool and keep out the heat. Like linen, that's what you wear in the summer to keep you cool. And wool you wear in the winter to keep you warm. And if you go through the Chumash and the Tanakh and all the Midrashim and all the different dinim, you see there are many aspects. This is a deep interpretation of the Gaon of Vilna, but he gives it us in more simplified form because it's mentioned in many places. The powers of heat, keeping yourself warm, keeping yourself cool. There's different types of garments that we're given. Some of us, we have been given a cool nature. We're introverts generally, people who who they don't give into passions. A good aspect of it, because they don't lose their temper easily. You can't, but frequently they're not very active. They're reticent. They don't want to take over too many responsibilities. An introvert person. Other people are an extrovert. They're very passionate. They say what's up the lungs of the tongue. They will go and speak without thinking, and they go and express their feelings. 1, 2, 3, and they feel something annoys them. They'll shout about it. Some worse people will go and fight because they're insulted. They'll raise their hands against somebody else. And powers, these are the powers of passion. Passion can be used for good or for bad. They will be passionate in their love relationships, and they'll be passionate sometimes to defend the country. They'll be passionate to express their own instincts for the good or for the bad. And similarly to other people, introverts, and will be the opposite. They won't be passionate. On the other hand, they'll control their anger. Some people they'll control their passion. Even if they're craving for something very much, they can control it. Another person craving for something nice to eat or to drink, he can't control it. So he goes and drinks, becomes drunk. Or he drinks a little bit, but he's got to express himself. So these are the Tzema or Fishtim. So the highest level is when you can control both when they're needed for the good. That's called mixing them together. And the worst is if you have both and use them both for hate. That's what we see in the world today. Unfortunately, there are a lot of cultures even that develop Tzema or Fishtim for evil. Everything's used for hate. They control themselves for hate, for certain things, and they'll express themselves for hate. So it can be the worst of the best. So that gives a bit of inkling of law of sharpness. But the rest we'll have to keep for another occasion.